flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
You want reckless speculation?
You know this ain't gonna happen.
How about reckless trade speculation?
For the love of God!
Yes, it is a Reckless Speculation Thursday on Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment. Are you not entertained by these Ben Simmons rumors, Judd?
The incredible thing is Wednesday turned into just a pop-up reckless speculation free-for-all, and now
reckless speculation
is with Doogie in studio that we're going to top what we did yesterday, which was really top-level reckless speculation.
It was.
Well, so Doogie's here from the 5 Eyewitness News sports team from the Scoop podcast, which you can find on ScoreNorth.com and anywhere else you find podcasts. So we're gonna tap your brain for everything you've been hearing and everything Ben Simmons and not Ben Simmons related. But my first question to you about Ben Simmons is, because I think every time we talk about him on the show and every time we put stuff out there on social media and every time there's a new advancement in the Ben Simmons saga as it pertains to the Wolves, there is a large chunk of Wolves Nation, the Wolves universe, if you will, that says, why would you want a guy, Royce, a couple days ago on the show, why would you want a guy that literally hides from shooting in the fourth quarter? Why are people so obsessed with the Wolves acquiring Ben Simmons? So from what you're gleaning and just your NBA expertise, Dukes, what is why should the Wolves want a guy that cowers in the corner when it's time to shoot in the fourth quarter of big games?
Because the Wolves have guys that will take those shots, Phil. They need guys who can play defense, high-level defense. Ben Simmons is one of the 5, in my opinion, is one of the 5 best on-the-ball defensive players on this planet. He can guard multiple positions. And I'm not just talking the 1 and the 2 spot. Like, he can guard the 3. He can guard some 4s. Like, he can guard, in some instances, 4 positions. He is a defensive stopper. He is somebody that can facilitate, an offensive set. He can make the right decision. He is signed for 4 more years. He is only in his mid-20s. You can argue he's not even in the prime of his career. If you look at his history, high school, into the 1 year at LSU, into the pros, those guys oftentimes turn out to be really good players. There was a reason years ago why he went number 1 overall. There's still a lot there to like. I would not fixate on the Atlanta playoff series. Yes, he was miserable. Yes, all the criticism he is receiving for the way he played against the Atlanta Hawks, for Philadelphia to underachieve, to not win that series. I understand all the heat. I do. But I would still bet on Ben Simmons for a while. If you're the Wolves, the time is now. You've got 2 new owners coming in. They certainly will have some say in how things are going to occur here in the coming years before they take over as majority owners, if they get their finances in order. But at this point, we need to presume that they will take over as majority owners December of 2023. So the pressure is that much more on the front office, the coaching staff. When you look at the timeline of Cat, D'Lo, Ben Simmons fits squarely into that. Now, if you want to go the other way, if you want to go down the path of maybe they should trade Cat and trade D'Angelo Russell, build around McDaniels, build around Ant, reset the timeline. But I don't think Wolves fans want to hear that. I don't think a lot of Wolves employees want to hear that, Phil. They are ready to make some sort of playoff run. It has been far too long. So Ben Simmons helps that cause greatly.
I'm going to take it to Dukes that with new people coming in to not necessarily immediately, like per se, officially run the team, but there's going to be a new feeling, a new face of the franchise, and that's how it's going to be sold. I'm going to take it that A-Rod and Laurie ain't going to come in and say, hey, Gerson, trade Cat. Like, I would think the Simmons thing makes way more sense as let's try and make an impact move that makes us good as opposed to, what the fan base here deserves? Another rebuild. So I actually think the fact that this franchise is going to have two new, and I say this in air quotes, owners who are going to be perceived as the face of the franchise, that they would be much more eager to add a player who's going to help than to tear down again.
100%. Goes back to what I said on this show in late June, that the Wolves, quote, want Ben Simmons badly. Nothing has changed on that front as we sit here now.
Hey, Dukes.
Just over 2 months later.
Just quick, too. I think we need to stop right here for just a second and pat you on the back, because like now this is picking up national, or it has picked up, and there's a lot of reports, and you were on this, and like, I mean, we love this stuff, but in all seriousness, you're right. It was late June that you were like, no, this could happen. And
no, it's clickbait. Like, Doogie and Score North, it's all clickbait.
Mackey and Judd and Doogie's make
drumming up.
But I mean, just quickly, you've done a great job.
Well, thank you, Judd. Now, some people might want to kick me in the groin because I did predict it. I thought a Ben Simmons trade would happen right around the draft a month ago, and clearly it hasn't happened. I knew all along Daryl Morey was asking for the moon, but I just thought, hey, like it's beyond the point of repair. Like it's inevitable that a trade needs to happen. But as we sit here now, a month later, it hasn't happened. But like Judd and I talked about on Tuesday, Phil, like the league thinks Philly is going to have to move him. That Ben can't start the season in that particular marketplace. It would be doom and gloom. The reports of Ben having zero interaction this summer with the Philadelphia staff, there's accuracy there. Now, I don't know if it would become quite the Jimmy Butler toxic situation, but it clearly would have some level of I don't even know if this is a word, but toxicness like that would exist in Philly. So, like, the league thinks a trade is happening. And I can promise you, Gerson Rosas is in, I don't think it's daily because Daryl Morey is a good friend, knows where he stands, but there are enough text messages, I can promise you that. Gerson and Daryl going back and forth, right? With Gerson presumably saying, Daryl, like, you're not getting 4 first-round picks. You're not getting James Wiseman. Like, remember, around the draft, they asked Golden State for Andrew Wiggins, to make the money work. Wiggins, James Wiseman, picks 7 and 14, plus 2 additional future first-round picks. Golden State wasn't doing that. So, like, that's where Morey was starting the negotiations. He's going to come down. A trade is happening at some point. I just can't help but wonder if at some point Philadelphia says, okay, Portland, we get it. You're not moving Damian Lillard now. Like, maybe that's a year from now, but you're not moving him now. Let's do this Ben Simmons, CJ McCollum trade. Let's make that happen.
That makes more sense.
That, to me,
it actually makes sense for both teams.
Yeah. And, maybe Golden State, has enough pieces. Maybe they say, okay, here's Wiggins, here's Wiseman, here's the Arkansas kid, Moody or one of their other young players, and maybe Philadelphia says, okay, let's do that. I still think he's going west, not staying in the Eastern Conference. Like, Toronto has interest, but I don't think Ben's going to end up in Toronto. I know Sacramento is a popular pick, but the buzz from Sacramento is the Kings are not willing to offer up Tyrese Halliburton. So, there's maybe not a match there. And, yeah, Minnesota still needs to find a third team. And I think there's some other teams, too. Like, I think Boston, by the way. Like, I think Brad Stevens is looking still to do some more stuff. I think the Celtics have some interest in Ben. But, like, I don't see Philadelphia and Boston matching up on a Ben Simmons trade. I think the Knicks at some point had some interest in Ben Simmons. I don't see Philadelphia and New York matching up on a Ben Simmons trade. So I think we're looking at Portland. We're looking at Golden State. We're looking at Sacramento. And we're looking at the Wolves if they can find a third team, because unless I hear otherwise, I don't think Daryl Morey has a ton of interest in Malik Beasley, Jaden McDaniels, some of the other pieces. Yeah, sure, there's some interest in Jaden McDaniels, but like the money that the Wolves would send to Philadelphia, I don't think that's real appealing at this moment to Morey and his staff.
The way I'm sort of sensing it, and let's go to the D'Lo part here too, because it feels like, from the Wolves' perspective, if they're just going to deal one-on-one with Philadelphia, then they would have to include D'Lo. I don't think the Wolves want to include D'Lo, but I don't think the Sixers view D'Lo as the main piece that they would want in a deal for Simmons anyways.
They don't like D'Angelo Russell. I'll reiterate what I said weeks upon weeks ago, where Gerson told Philadelphia, and I have this from multiple angles. Anthony Edwards, untouchable. Karl Anthony Towns, untouchable. Look at the rest of my roster, and you can have your pick. So that means he told Philly, hey, Russell is there for the taking. Now, in the end, maybe more it's a gut feeling, a strong sense, but I do feel like Gershon wants to combine D'Angelo with his former high school teammate, Ben Simmons. So the idea would be that Russell and Simmons would play together here. But I'm just telling you, right from the get-go, Gershon said, I only have 2 players that are 100% off limits.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. I think so let's say for more on the Sixers side, D'Lo is just a non-starter, so you have to get a third team involved. If it's not Dame, and to this point it's not Bradley Beal, although that would seem to make sense as a third team. The Sixers are looking for a ball handling sort of perimeter combo guard who can shoot some threes, space the floor right. Have you thought at all or done any digging on who the other third team options could even be? We've been so fixated on Dame. You brought up McCollum, which might make some sense. I've thrown Beal out there come on, why is he not demanding his way out of Washington? Washington can go into a rebuild. The Wolves can send Washington a bunch of first-round picks. Washington sends Beal to Sixers, and Ben Simmons comes here. That seems to make sense, but there's no traction there. So what are some other third-team possibilities even, Dukes?
I wonder, this is more reckless speculation, not informed speculation, but I do wonder about San Antonio.
Reckless speculation.
What direction are the Spurs going? They have the young guard Murray, they have Derek White, they have maybe some other appealing guys. Oklahoma City, what direction are they going with Gilgeous-Alexander? Do they want to accumulate even more draft assets? Now, to move a player that good, the return would have to be sizable if you're Sam Presti down there in Oklahoma City. But I just wonder about Oklahoma City with all this cap space. So you think about teams with some financial flexibility being facilitators in 3-team scenarios. So those 2 instantly come to mind.
Interesting.
So what's the realistic feeling, Dukes, about a timetable here too? Because clearly the Sixers are going to go with we're not going to trade him. We're going to hang on to him as long as we want. And as we saw with Tibbs and Jimmy Butler, you can do that. It usually does not work out well. What's the league thinking as far as what the timing is now, since it was not the draft? Is it going to be a week into the season? Is it going to be pre-training camp because this would just be such a bad situation? What does your intelligence tell you?
That it'll be this calendar year, but a lot of the league doesn't even think that Ben will play another game for the Sixers. So when I say this calendar year, it could be like a James Harden situation last year where he ended up playing a few games, right, for the Rockets, then ends up being moved to the Nets. But a lot of league people don't even think it'll get to that point, that a trade is going to happen sooner rather than later. But a lot of these same people also told me, hey, we expect to trade right around the draft. But now that the calendar is flipped to September, training camp's open in just a few weeks, Judd. Mm-hmm. Preseason openers are 1 month from today, or a day or two. The Timberwolves preseason opener is October 4th. Things really ramp up after Monday, after Labor Day. That's when a lot of guys are back in their respective cities, in the gym, working hard. The Wolves are actually gathering down in Miami. Chris Finch told me yesterday at the State Fair. I caught up with Chris for a while. He told me he'll be in Miami next week along with just about the whole team. D'Lo and Cat organized some workouts, some team bonding down there. So a lot of teams are doing stuff like that as soon as next week. So really, next week is when things really, really pick up. But if Philadelphia is doing anything along those lines, I don't anticipate Ben Simmons being a part of those things.
Yeah. Hey, any other, before we get to Vikings roster things, just anything else in your Timberwolves bag that we have yet to empty here, dude?
Sure. So Finch told me he anticipates one way or another Jared Vanderbilt being back, whether that's just signing the qualifying offer, or my sense is it still is a situation where a multi-year deal gets done, that Jared is signed for 2 or 3 years. Maybe it's a 3-year deal, team option, 3rd year. Gershon loves team options. So, maybe it's something more along those lines, not him signing the qualifying offer. But certainly Coach Finch, he's planning right now as if Jared Vanderbilt is going to be back. He said there's room for Jordan McLaughlin too, that he wants Jordan McLaughlin back. So you look at those 2 restricted free agent fronts, but I don't sense either situation is real close to wrapping up. So they hire Elston Turner, who once upon a time, 2009, interviewed for the Timberwolves head coaching job. Longtime NBA assistant, played in the NBA for 8-9 years, something like that. So I mean, he's been a part of the NBA for like 30-something years, or right around 30 years. That's a good hire. Like, he'll come in and he'll replace Joseph Blair. He will be the de facto defensive coordinator, Finch told me. But here's another interesting tentacle to that situation. So it came down to Elston Turner and Lindsey Harding. She was a good player back in the day, I believe at Duke. She had a cup of coffee with the Lynx at one point. She's actually worked in the Philadelphia 76ers, coaching hierarchy. Currently a developmental coach with the Sacramento Kings. So if she had come here to be the number 3 assistant, that would have been a promotion from where, her position is right now in Sacramento. But interesting that the Wolves came close to adding a female to their staff. There's a few female assistant coaches. We're waiting for some team to say, okay, let's make this female our head coach. I think that time is coming in the next couple years. But still, interesting that the Wolves came close to hiring a female.
So, Dukes, on the Vikings, the quarterback situation, we actually all, I think, on this show got right. But the one thing we didn't see was how it was going to unfold. Sean Mannion is officially back now, but he's been signed to the practice squad because I had forgotten the practice squad in these COVID times is 16 players with up to 6 veterans. So,
Judd, it's these unprecedented times.
Oh, these trying times as well. Amir Abdullah is back. Mannion is back. Much to Phil Mackey's chagrin, Dakota Dozier is back on the practice
Why
squad.
even tempt yourself? Like, what's the point? Why even it's like, all right, I'm starting a diet, okay? I need to lose 30 pounds, but I'm going to put some Doritos in the cupboard just in case I get snacky around 10:30 p.m.
Phil, because you got a nice bag of Doritos on the practice squad.
I wouldn't worry about it, Phil. Like, a lot would have to go wrong for Dakota Dozier to be playing, week 3 against Seattle.
It's the Vikings. I mean, things are already going kind of wrong.
My point was going to be on the quarterback. We actually got this right. The difference is, I think what they can do now is carry Mannion on the practice squad. If Kirk gets pinched and put into quarantine, Dukes, Mannion can then be activated off the practice squad, but he doesn't eat up an active roster position, which is the Vikings' goal. So,
yeah, it's actually pretty darn smart. Like, he'll be on the airplane on September 11th flying to Cincinnati. So if something, God forbid, goes haywire with testing Sunday morning, September 12th,
yes,
Kirk Cousins is out. Yeah, the Vikings can then elevate Mannion. Mannion could, in theory, be the starting quarterback right then and there, even though he's currently on the practice squad. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, the season probably goes pretty darn south if Kirk has to miss any sort of, lengthy, time, but you need to have some sort of protection. And while there are still healthy opinions about the long-term viability of Kellen Mond, like, you can't thrust Kellen into a game situation if it came down to that right now with so much at stake this particular year. So I wasn't sure who the name would be. I wasn't sure Seattle would make the move on Sean Mannion, but once he was made available, the steam was out there right away yesterday afternoon. You're right. The Vikings made it official this morning, adding Mannion to the practice squad. And Britton Colquitt will be back. I expect him back as soon as today. That's another one of these procedural situations. So, the long snapper, DePaula, is back, and Everson Griffin is back. I'm told that Colquitt is also going to be back.
Okay. So this can you just explain to the audience, if you have any idea, about the procedural things that are happening?
I still need to dig on that. Yeah, a couple of people asked me on Twitter, Phil. I still need to do some digging on that. I mean, with Griffin and DePaula at that time, the procedural situation looked like, hey, we know we can bring these guys back. They're not going anywhere else, so let's maintain that roster, flexibility by being able to keep this guy, that guy. But the day later, I still need to figure out what exactly the benefit was to releasing Colquitt and then bringing him back so fast. So I will get back to you on that.
All right. What other? Actually, I gotta ask you, because tonight, 5:00, I guess my time, 7:00 your time, the Gophers and Ohio State kick off the season. We did a big segment just sort of previewing and talking yesterday. We're all kind of in the we'll see what happens in this game mode. I actually think the Gophers are going to run the ball effectively even against Ohio State. And if there's a great time to play Ohio State, which there really is none, but it would be their first game with a new quarterback, with young players. Like, Ohio State probably isn't going to peak for another month or two. So you might be able to get one here or play them close. Your thoughts on Gophers, Ohio State, and then just Gophers season in general and what they can and can't do this year?
With you. Give me Ohio State on September 2nd, not October 2nd or November 2nd. C.J. Stroud has literally never thrown a collegiate pass.
Yeah. 5-star
recruit, lots to like, but you don't know, primetime TV, under the lights, like you don't know how he's going to react. So yeah, like this is the time to play a program that's this good. That being said, if the Gophers lose tonight, Phil, I still see a path to winning 9 games. And I believe the Vegas over-under is 7 or 7.5. Like, I would bet the over on the Gophers win total. And it can still be a very successful season, even with a loss tonight. I'm as curious when breaking down this game on this angle as any. Ohio State's got 2 top 15, top 20 draft picks at wide receiver. So they have Garrett Wilson, they have Chris Olave. All right, you feel pretty good about Coney Durr at one of the cornerback spots, but who do you feel good about at the other cornerback spot? Do you feel okay about T-Time, Terrell Smith? I don't know about that, Phil. So, like, those 2 wide receivers, can Stroud make some passes, and those 2 wide receivers take advantage of the Gophers secondary? That to me is as interesting as any angle. Clearly the Gophers, experience on the offensive line, credit to their sports information office. The Gophers have 10 offensive linemen who have made at least 1 collegiate start. When you look at their main 5, like all 5 of those guys have made over 30 collegiate starts. It's as experienced an offensive line as there is in the country. Now, Ohio State's got 2 or 3 defensive linemen that are legit pro prospects, like they have just about every year, but they have 3 guys on the defensive line right now that are like, top 75 type draft picks. So the Gophers' offensive line will have their hands full, but we know how good Mo Ibrahim is. We know how good some of these offensive linemen are. So, that'll be fun to watch too. How much success can the Gophers have running the ball? But I'm most curious to see how the Gophers handle those 2 Buckeyes wide receivers.
Hey, Dukes, how does the Gopher passing game stack up? Just with Bateman gone, I believe Ottman Bell got injured in an early practice. That was such a strength for Tanner in 2019. How is that receiving core going into this season?
Well, and Chris Ottman Bell, quote unquote game time decision tonight. It's Judd. It's what I told you on Tuesday. I think we talked about this either last week or even 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
If Ottman Bell is out there tonight, like, I'm just telling Gophers fans, do not expect the old Chris Ottman Bell. And if he doesn't play, don't be surprised. Like, he's not anywhere close to 100% with what is presumed to be an ankle issue. It's not the knee. I think September 18th against Colorado, like, maybe that's the game you can circle and say, okay, that game we expect the old Chris Ottman Bell. So take him, for the most part, Judd, off the table. You've got the Texas A&M transfer, Wright, who physically plays the part, but still needs a lot of work when it comes to route running. You've got the young kid Jackson. That's got a chance. I would like to see Brevin Spann-Ford, the St. Cloud native, at the tight end position. There's a lot to like about him. We started to see glimpses in 2020. He's ready to make a nice leap. I would like to see Morgan building some chemistry with the tight end, Brevin Spann-Ford.
Nice. Rapid fire scoops. What else you got for us before we say goodbye here, dude?
So tonight at Huntington Bank Stadium, 31 NFL personnel will be there from 21 teams. The Vikings will have representation. So you think about all the NFL talent on the field. Tonight is a prime scouting opportunity. And not just the Buckeyes. Like, the Gophers' right tackle, Falele. Like, he's a legit top 75 type NFL pick. So they're there also to watch Gophers players. Bouye Mafe from Hopkins High School. Trust me, the scouts are there to watch Bue Mafe. It's not just Olave and Wilson and these Buckeyes defensive linemen. Trust me, the NFL people are going to be watching a lot of Gophers as well. It's also a big night for Gopher basketball. So they have a guard from the East Coast, last name Pierre, on an official visit. They feel pretty good about their chances to add him to the class of 2022 that includes Josh Ola-Joseph. It includes Pharrell Payne. It includes Braden Carrington. So, the Gophers feel pretty good about adding a potential fourth player to their 2022 recruiting class. There's another guard that's here on an official visit. He's a New York City kid. They've got some local kids. Tayson Chapman, the best player in the state in the 2023 class from Totino Grace. He will be in an unofficial visit tonight. Trevor Winter's son, Nolan Winter, from Lakeville North. He's got a Badgers offer. The Gophers want him badly. He, too, will be on campus tonight for an unofficial visit. So, yeah, not only a big night for Gophers football, but also a big night for Gophers men's basketball. I'll be catching up tomorrow with Billy Guerin, so nice. I'll get an update on Kirill Kaprizov, but the buzz from their offices over there in downtown St. Paul is they're going to get a deal done. It's when, not if. That KHL deadline has passed. I'll continue to say I'm more curious to see what the term ends up being. I'm not worried about a deal getting done. Can they get to 5, maybe even 6 years? I don't think it's going to be 7 or 8 years, but I don't think the Wild want to do a 3-year deal or even a 4-year deal. So I wonder if they can meet in the middle at 5 years. So I'm more curious about the term, not whether Kirill Kaprizov signs a long-term deal.
I get the sense too, Doogie, off of that point, that I think the term and the financials have been offered, and the Wild are just saying, what are your options from here? So, they're not doing 3. They don't want to do 4, and I don't think they're doing 4. I think the contract is on the table, and basically they're like, if you want to stay in Mother Russia, you can stay in Mother Russia. Otherwise, you're playing for us on this term. And it's
that's Billy in a nutshell.
Yeah, but
Billy's not gonna F around. Yeah,
we fight in Russia or we fight nowhere.
Exactly. But in this case, he's right. This is the one, he has the leverage. If this kid wants to play in the best league in the world, and now with really the only team he can play with, this is the offer. And by the way, it sounds very fair. If it's 5 years, that's very fair.
Also on the Twins. Not a whole lot there, but, I don't know if you guys are going to get to the Joe Ryan Major League debut from last night at some point here or not. Pretty good for 4 innings. Had the one blip, the 1 inning where he allowed a couple base runners and the home run. But, there's a lot there to like with the fastball, and some deception with the fastball. You look right now, who can you put in ink in the 2022 opening day rotation? Bailey Ober? So, there's some jobs to be had. Now, I think they end up – I can see them re-signing Michael Pineda, but he's a free agent, so you can't put Pineda in ink. So, I think it's probably Bailey Ober, and then there's some jobs to be had, right? So, Joe Ryan, he'll get a chance. I know he'll make his next start in Cleveland early next week. I know some people close to him that couldn't make it. I mean, a lot of people close to him made it to town last night. Cool. They had enough of a heads up, but I know some people that couldn't make it last night. There's a wedding in Southern California. Somebody who's close to him that is part of the wedding party. He couldn't make it to Minneapolis last night, but he'll be in Cleveland early next week for Joe Ryan's next start.
Yeah. That's Doogie. He is the king of
reckless speculation,
informed speculation, while we recklessly speculate around him. You can find him on 5 Eyewitness News and that sports department and the Scoop podcast every week, scorenorth.com and the Score North app. All right, Dukes. Thanks for coming.
All right, take it easy, boys. See ya.
Good work.
All right, Darren Doogie.
You think it was that good?
It was wonderful. We're going to transition here.